Once upon no time, a little soul said to God,
I know who I am.
and God said,
That's wonderful. Who are you?
I am the light.
That's right, you are the light.
And now that I know who I am, is it okay for me to be it?
You mean you want to be who you already are?
Well, yes, it's one thing to know who I am, but it's another thing to feel what it's like to be the light.
But you are the light.
Yes, but I want to know what it feels like.
Ah, yes. You always have been an adventuresome soul. But there's just one thing. There's nothing else but the light. So there's no easy way for you to experience yourself because there is nothing that you are not.
I am confused.
Well, think of it this way. You're like a candle in the sun. You are there, but you are joined by billions of other candles who would make up the sun. The sun would not be as bright as it is if you were not there. So how could you know yourself as the light when you are surrounded by light?
Well, you're God. You think of something.
The only way you can see yourself as the light is if I surround you with darkness.
What's darkness?
It would be an illusion of something that you are not.
Will I be afraid of the dark?
I suppose you could be, but only if you choose to be afraid. And why would you choose that? We would be making all this up. We'll be pretending.
Oh.
The only way you can pretend to be separate is if we create something that appears to be the opposite. The only way to know hot is if there is cold. So if we create darkness, you might be tempted to shake your fist at it or to curse it. If you overcome this temptation, you can be a light unto the darkness. You can shine your light and feel who you really are. And when you do that, you and all the others will know how special you are.
Well, you mean it's okay to show off and show others how special I am?
Yes, it's very okay. But don't misunderstand me. By special, I do not mean better.
Oh.
Everyone is special in their own unique way. But some others have forgotten that.
Oh.
So when you choose to be special, you will remind them that it's okay for them to be special. So, if you're ready to start, what part of special do you want to be?
Special has parts?
Oh, yes. You can be kind, gentle,
Oh.
creative, patient, helpful, friendly. You can be any of these parts, or a combination of any of these, or many other ways of being special.
I see. I know. I know! I want to be that part of special that is forgiving.
Ah, yes. You would choose that one, wouldn't you? You are adventuresome.
Yes, I will be forgiving.
Great, but before you start, there's something you should know. There's no one to forgive.
No one?
No one. Everything and everyone I have made is perfect. Just look around you.
the little soul looked around and saw millions and millions of other lights and said,
So if I am forgiving, I will need somebody or something to forgive.
Just then, a friendly soul approached the little soul and said,
I will help you.
You will? But how?
Well, I will give you someone to forgive. I will enter your next lifetime and give you something to forgive.
Well, why would you do this?
Because I love you.
and God said,
You see, I have sent you nothing but angels.
The little soul seemed surprised at this, and then the friendly soul said,
Well, don't you remember? Well, you did the same thing for me in another lifetime. Well, we've been helping each other out through many lifetimes. We've been male and female, villain and victim. And in each lifetime, we've had the chance to be who we really are by experiencing and expressing that which we are not.
Wow, we've done this before?
Yes. And in this lifetime, I will do something for you that you will perceive as really terrible. so that you can experience for yourself the one who forgives.
But what could you do? What could you possibly do that would seem so terrible?
The friendly soul thought for a moment and then said,
Oh, we'll think of something.
Wow, I get to be forgiving.
Yes, but
Uh,
now you have to remember something.
okay.
Now, in order to do this, I will have to slow my vibration and become very heavy. I will have to pretend to be something that I am not. So we must agree on something.
Sure. What is it?
Well, in that moment that I do this terrible thing, whatever it may be, I need you to remember who I really am. I will be pretending so hard, I probably will forget who I am. And if you forget who you are and don't remember who I am, then we will need another soul to come along and remind us of who we both are.
No, we won't. I will remember you. And I'm going to thank you for bringing me this gift, the chance to experience myself as who I truly am.
and so the agreement was made. And the little soul went forth into a new lifetime and waited anxiously to be able to experience itself as forgiving and to thank the soul that made it possible. And at all the moments in that new lifetime, whenever a new soul appeared on the scene, whether that new soul brought joy or sadness, and especially if it brought sadness, the little soul thought of what God had said.
Always remember, I have sent you nothing but angels.
Didn't they do a great job? The story, The Little Soul in the Sun, is from this book, which is by Neil Donald Walsh. And it's such a wonderful book. It's supposed to be a children's book, but I don't know about you, but this is a much deeper lesson than probably a lot of children would understand. But we don't yet have it over in the bookstore, but we're going to be ordering a couple copies. So if this is something you'd like, just check with Maddie in the bookstore. Well, regardless of whether you believe in reincarnation, I think it's obvious to all of us that we're here for a reason, that we're on a sacred journey. And part of that journey, we may be the little soul, and part of that journey, we may be someone's friendly soul. But part of it is what it's really about is finding out, or remembering, I should say, who we really are. And then after we do that, we need to experience, like the little soul, what it's like to live according to that truth of who we are. So anyway, I have had many friendly souls in my life, and one of them was my first husband, Larry. I got married when I was 21 years old, and I was on the rebound from another relationship. I had been seeing this boy that I met in college, and he was killed in a plane crash. So I was really devastated by that. And I went on then later to meet Larry. And he was this tall, handsome, blonde hair, blue-eyed, good-looking hunk. And I thought, wow. But of course, we were very different. He was a very outgoing social person, and he had a lot of confidence. And at that time in my life, my self-esteem was pretty low. And I also found out later, was abusive, emotionally and physically. He was also very controlling. He controlled all the money as a couple, and didn't trust me. He would drive to where I was just to find out if I was there. So the marriage didn't last very long, but it was not me who ended the marriage. It was him. I was really set on not being divorced because my parents had been divorced. And I was really, I felt very strongly that I should make this marriage work, even though it obviously was not a healthy situation. But one day, Larry came to me and he said, Carla, I really love you, but I don't want to be married. And I was devastated. I was feeling that I had failed in some way as a wife. And so what ended up happening is I packed up my little Ford Maverick with everything that I had that I could get in there, and I drove off to Miami, Florida, Hollywood, Florida, actually. And here again, I was just feeling so badly about myself, no self-esteem whatsoever. And when I got there, I moved in with this woman that I knew from the restaurant that Larry had managed in Indianapolis. And I had to pay rent. I had to find a job right away because I'd only gone down there with $200. And of course, this was the 70s, so $200 is a little bit more of it. But anyway, my roommate had gone to interview as a Playboy bunny. And she came home and she said, Carla, you should go try out. And I'm looking at her and thinking, no way. Me? I mean, after all, I'd been told by Larry that I was flat-chested and that, I wasn't that pretty. So I didn't believe that there was any way in the world that I would possibly be hired as a Playboy bunny. But I was. And the wardrobe mistress there who takes care of the costumes, and let me just clear up one thing. I was not a Playboy playmate. All right, there's a difference. A Playboy bunny serves cocktails and food at the club. I was a waitress. A playmate has the photo spread. And believe me, I have no staple in my navel. So anyway, the costume woman at the club said to me, honey, we can give a wall cleavage. And they did. So anyway, but as time went by, I realized that this job was not me. And I began to see that my self-esteem came up as far as my looks were concerned. But there was something missing. I realized that I was not my body. I was not my job. That there was a part of me that wasn't able to express. And so I went back to college, and thank goodness Playboy had a tuition reimbursement. And I was able to complete my bachelor's degree, and I began taking classes for my master's in industrial relations. So what I want to say about this is that Larry was my friendly soul. And it was Larry that, had he not asked for a divorce, I would not be where I am here today, because I was so caught up in trying to make that marriage work. And the other part of this is that had not Larry asked for a divorce, I would never have gotten married to this wonderful man that I'm with today. In addition to us individually finding out who we are and then living in accord with that truth, we as a country also have to find out who we are. And we have to make a choice of who we want to be as a country and as a world. And let's face it, we've got probably some friendly souls now in this world. Right now. I know you may be thinking, not so friendly. But let's just sit with this and realize that these people came here to maybe test us and see what are we willing to do. Because I see changes happening in this country as people are aware more that they do play a part. I want Duncan to go ahead and put a slide up here. And coincidentally, Christine Schultz, I don't know if she's here today or not, but she had posted this yesterday, which was just perfect for this lesson. And so I wanted to share it with you. It's a quote from Rosemary Fillmore, who is Charles and Myrtle Fillmore's granddaughter. And it says, "The world we are experiencing today is the result of our collective consciousness. And if we want a new world, each of us must start taking responsibility for help creating it." And that's, I thought the daily word today was so perfect to go along with this, another divine coincidence. I want to share, well, first of all, let me tell you about the jack pine. How many of you are familiar with jack pine trees? Anybody? Oh, okay, well, this is something new. Well, a jack pine, generally it grows up in the northwest part of the country and in Canada. And it's a very interesting tree. It grows very tall, but it requires a certain situation in order for the pine cone seeds to regenerate and reproduce. And what it needs is a temperature that's consistent and very hot. In other words, what it needs is a forest fire. So think about that for just a minute and how that applies to your life and the changes that you go through. Sometimes we need a forest fire. Sometimes we need a situation which is so hot that it requires us to rise to the occasion, and it then leads to change and transformation. Now, where's my book? Oh, there it is. Excuse me. There's a wonderful man by the name of Howard Thurman, and he wrote this book called Meditations of the Heart. And in this book, he shares the story of the jack pine. But I thought it was interesting what he said, and I'd like to share that with you. By the way, Howard Thurman was the mentor of Martin Luther King Jr. It is not too far afield to suggest that there are things deep within the human spirit that are firmly embedded, dormant, latent, and inactive. These things are always positive, even though they may be destructive rather than creative. But there they remain until our lives are swept by the forest fire. It may be some mindless tragedy, some violent disclosure of human depravity, or some moment of agony in which the whole country or nation may be involved. The experience releases something that has been locked up within all those years. If it be something that calls to the deepest things in life, we may, like the jack pine, grow tall and straight against the sky. And as Bob says every week, may you always be open to God's guidance and grace. Let's prepare for meditation.